Cuban author Dora Alonso with Sophie and the Angel today.
Do you like Cuban sandwiches?
You know I love my Cuban sandwich. There's a place in town that has killer sandwiches.
Café con leche.
Please never do that again. Oh, all right. Today we're talking about Sophie and the Angel, a first from Dora Alonso for us in this channel. And I would say highly entertaining. And I got some similar vibes of another author that we've read. Did you get those at all by chance?
No. Who did you have in mind?
Do you remember Marquez, that very old man with enormous wings? Remember, like, the angel came down, but like it's like almost like the flip.
Oh, okay. I can see that. Yeah. I thought this one felt a little bit more religious than it did magical.
What kind of a person would you say Sophie is? Like, you started off with religious. Like, what else does Sophie have going on in her life?
She's a loner. She basically only has the housekeeper as her only friend and a cat. So she's, I don't know, is she crazy cat lady? So she definitely is that, maybe crazy cat lady, a loner. She also seems to be somebody that is set in her routines, set in her ways. This is what time you eat. This is what time we pray. This is what time we go to church. This is, my fork, knife, spoon have to be in this order. She's definitely somebody that is set in her ways.
It's kind of sad too, because on top of, like, there's a lot of different ways you can be lonely. Like when you say that she's lonely, but at one point, I think if I recall correctly, the narration even said that she was like invisible to the town, right? Where like she even couldn't be seen by others, which was, I don't know, it's kind of sad. It's a different level of isolationism. But to your point, she did have the maid till the maid kicks the bucket. And she dies looking at the Sacred Heart. Now, Crypto, you've shared on this channel before that you did go to Catholic school. You did study. It was your major at one point, I think it was. Did you guys study the Sacred Heart much?
No, we didn't go over that.
Okay. I don't know a ton about it too, but I do know that it's meant to be kind of like representative of like the eternal love, like the undying devotion to never giving in, to never questioning, like a perfect love, if you will.
I think that's what happens in this story, right? Is Sophie doesn't really question when finally an angel visits her after the maid's death. Sophie just accepts it and moves on, or moves with the angel through her new life.
I wonder, did you ever think about like that eternal devotion from like the maid's perspective too? Like, it's kind of interesting. We don't really see her. She's not represented in the story, but we hear how she had served her for many years. Like, it was her devotion in a sense, but she didn't have that religious devotion. She had the kids that grounded her, and she almost had like the worldly direct focus, which is a direct foil to Sophie, who's always focused on the religious and eternal life, I guess, in a sense.
There did feel like there was this hierarchy in the story of the angel, and then the devout Catholic, and then the maid who was more worried about, I don't want to say like she's the representation of like capitalism or something, but more the representation of that, the physical world. And then I don't know. It just felt like there was kind of this hierarchy of the different characters. I don't know where you put the cat.
The cat you put in the bipedal section, where suddenly he just jumps up on two hind legs and is like, hey, there's an angel here, right? And the angel walks in and starts playing an electric guitar. I loved it. Oh my God, I cracked up so much.
And I was like, oh, you could just see that, totally like 80s hair, Oh, so good. Yeah, I chuckled out loud on that part.
Yeah. Instead of playing like the harp, you have like kind of like the magical uppercut realism of an electric, not even just like an acoustic car, an electric guitar, right?
I want to know where his amp was. Or was like,
I actually did wonder the same thing.
And I'm not a music person, you know that, but I was like, well, how is he playing electric guitar? And then I kind of imagined it myself. I was like, what if like the sound was emanating from his wings? That would be really cool. My brain went a little crazy in this part of the story.
Yeah, no, I have to admit, I actually thought the same thing. But at the same time, it's magical realism. Like, we've talked about this before. Magical realism is sometimes when you have these like fantastical things that happen and you just accept it. You're like, okay, yeah, the cat's walking and announces like a butler that the angel's there. That's cool. but it also kind of gives it maybe a more extreme version of, like, remember A Christmas Carol when Ebenezer Scrooge wakes up after this crazy night of the first ghost. And he's like, well, maybe it was just, a lump of cheese, a bad piece of bread, like something like that. And Sophie, she falls asleep, wakes up, and is kind of like, well, maybe I dreamed the whole thing, and goes back to her day where, like, the narration describes how she does all these things. And again, everything she does, she's alone. Like, she's still isolated here. Like, as we push the story forward, you almost get this question of, like, well, was that real?
I think that's pretty typical for most people, right? I love how Sophie is written to be very religious and devout, but she's practical as well. She isn't just going to immediately believe that an angel came and talked to her. And I think that as humans, we're kind of programmed to be skeptical of the supernatural, and Sophie is doing exactly that. I think what most of us would probably do.
Do you think that's why she doesn't go to the church? Right? Like the angel is perfect, handsome. They start talking, and, after the 15th visit, gives her a magical unicorn, a new one. Don't want to give her an old one, right? But she's, like, afraid to go to the church about this. Like, shouldn't the church be the one she does go to about this?
You would think, and that's where I have kind of go down the rabbit hole here with me, because I read this all from the standpoint of very, very religious standpoint. I think that it's Lucifer.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because Okay. So you think that because there is obviously a question of lust in this story, I think. Because she starts to form, let's say this. Let's start more neutral. She forms an attachment with the visitor. Right? The fallen angel. And she starts having these, like, visions of attraction and even a kiss, right? Which, I don't know, to me, when I hear a kiss, I'm like, okay, whatever. But they describe it as a mortal sin, interestingly. I assume when you went to school, they talked about, like, mortal sin versus venial sin, right?
Right.
Right. So mortal sin's kind of like one of those, like, like murder, adultery. I don't think most people... Yeah, I don't think most people think of kiss. Like, now, while lust is one of them, I don't know if kiss is entering into lust. Tell me more about this devil angle. What's that have to do with lust and how he tempts her here?
So I think that you got him falling down. He's playing an electric guitar. He's being subtle. He is giving her gifts, luring her in. And I think he's seducing her. And then this relationship is not platonic. It is completely romantic in nature. And I think that he's trying to draw her to I think the angel is trying to draw her to the dark side. He doesn't seem to have a good intent for her. Like, what does she get out of this? If, like, you had a guardian angel, you figure that your life would be improving dramatically, and her seems to kind of keep going the same, and she doesn't feel comfortable going to the church with this. Well, why not? Like, if I had proof of God to give to the church, I would 100% do that, because that's going to help the cause, right? And she believes in this cause, and she's not doing that. Why would you hide this? Why would you keep this to yourself? And I don't think that she's a selfish person.
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder. So I approached this story very formalistic. Like, I didn't look up anything about the author. I wanted to kind of just do this with a personal reaction, because I think that tells us more about ourselves, was one of my goals for how I approached this. And, I think I told you I've spent some time in South America, so not Cuba, but they do talk about in Latin American cultures how when the conquistadores came, that, when Catholicism came to the South, to Southern Hemisphere America, that it had to kind of overtake and invade the local beliefs. Like, a lot of local tribes in the Peruvian area where I was, they talked about fertility. Right, they even had, like, shrines to phallic symbols and stuff like that, and the church would come in and they'd knock them down. Right, they even like murdered people that were basically anti-Catholic in a sense. And I wonder if this suppression of or fear, maybe I should say, of the mortal sins of lust and out of marriage, sexual intercourse and such, that that it kind of like led to suppression. And I would say for sure what I could say is that Sophie does have a lot of suppression, it feels like. She's purposely, I think she's isolated herself from others for fear of this mortal sin, this fear of her body's desires to be attracted to other people, which should lead to love and marriage, right? But for her, it's just like, oh, mortal sin, I'm screwed. I can't, I gotta go confess. I gotta go to the church right now. So I almost kind of took it as like this temptation, to your point. Like maybe I didn't view it as Lucifer, but maybe I viewed it as temptation. Like that's something that she's avoided her whole life, to the point of completely suppressing a lot of herself, a lot of her gifts even.
Yeah, I love that. I also thought about, what if she was a nun?
Like in the story, secretly Sophie was a nun this whole time, you're saying?
Yeah, what if she's a nun in the story and we just don't know that information, and she's just fighting against her sexual urges, and she is manifesting this idea of this angel is causing me to do this, or maybe that's her outlet of how she's dealing with her own sexuality, as somebody that's not supposed to really have that, as if she's supposed to be devout to God. I think we kind of know she's not a nun, but I feel like she's nun-ish.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know enough about it, but I think, you're supposed to give up a certain amount of worldly items, possessions, desires even. And, that when she does finally tell the church, and the guy's like, look, your isolation has caused, I think, some hallucinations in your life. You need to get rid of stuff. You got to get rid of your cat even, which I was like, oh, that's kind of sad. But I was like wondering, right? Is the cat symbolic of her runaway imagination?
Attachment.
Yeah. Well, okay. Or, like the four-legged creature turning into two-leg being kind of like her loss of control, even in her life, of what she was being the crazy cat lady, I guess. But at the end, you have the feather in the room. And I think it was presented in a way where at a surface level, you could just read it as like, okay, the angel is real. But I don't know. There was something about this that just made me question of like, is it? Like, can I trust this narrator? The narrator thought a cat was walking on two hind legs and was also telling me about an angel coming with an electric guitar to sing you to sleep. It made me question of like, can I really trust that feather really was there?
For me, the feather was, do you need proof to truly believe in something? And I think that you don't. Mm-hmm. Whether you think the feather, yes, the angel was 100% there. Sophie's not crazy. She's totally, having this relationship with this angel, then I think that's fine. I think you definitely interpret it that way. But I also think it was to kind of give the inverse of that of, do you need the feather to actually believe that Sophie was telling the truth and that she really had a relationship with this angel?
And what does it mean that the father didn't see the dang feather, right? Shouldn't the church be the one to see the sign of like faith if it were like real in a sense? I don't know. Like I was really disappointed, I feel like, with almost everyone in the story except the cat. The cat was the only cool person in the story.
I thought the angel was pretty cool too, rocking a guitar. And he seemed like, again, that's why I kind of thought it felt a little bit Lucifer-y, because it felt like he was almost too good to be true. But to your point of, why wouldn't the father see the feather? What was the misgivings there? Sometimes I think we're too close to stuff, or true believers, going back to, some of our other thoughts and discussions is those that you least think are the ones that are going to be close to God are the ones that are closest to God. You don't need the church to be close to God. Sophie didn't go to church, and she was closer than the father. She was closer than all of those people that went weekly to mass. She didn't need that, and she had a closer relationship than they did.
You can almost view it kind of like the three hermits from Tolstoy, right?
Yes, exactly.
Like
exactly.
They didn't follow the church organizational processes and procedures, but they could still live like Jesus and still love with love, like true love, and care for their neighbors, and live a better life than some people who are so obsessed with the facade of what religion brings, in a sense.
Or the rituals, or the notoriety, or any of those other things that, the church is this building and you have to worship this way on this day at this time with this book. And Sophie didn't need that. And I love it. Solid story.
Okay. Very good story. Highly recommended. Playlist down below for other women in translation talks that we're doing this month. Hope you had a good time. My name's been Una. Please hit subscribe. Peace out.
Peace.